When I like a game, I'll play the hell out of it. It's funny because something I get a lot of shit for sometimes is playing the same game over and over again. And half the time it's the same experience from start to finish since the last 12 times I played it, but that doesn't stop me from playing it for a 13th time. I'd rather sit down and enjoy an experience I can turn my brain off for rather than focusing on learning something new. And to me, that's perfectly okay. If I don't have any desire to play something new, then I don't have a desire to. I'm not going to sit down and play a game I don't want to play. It defeats the whole purpose of playing video games in the first place, which is to have fun. I like what I like, and there's nothing wrong with liking what I like. So with all that said, I like Team Fortress 2. A lot, actually. On December 17th, 2015, Little Britain created a Steam account under the alias TheFlyer_20 off of my parents' laptop. The sole purpose of creating this account was to play a game I had my eyes set on ever since I saw a YouTube video of it a few months prior, Mirror's Edge, a first-person, three-dimensional platformer. It was like nothing I had ever seen before. My 13-year-old brain craved this kind of immersion. It was a breath of fresh air after playing Super Mario Galaxy to hell and back. Now instead of watching Mario jump from a disjointed camera hovering behind his back, I can now be Mario. Jump over what he was jumping over. It was nuts! From the moment I started processing what it was that I saw in that YouTube video, I fell in love immediately. Over the course of the next few months, I watched gameplay video after gameplay video, anxiously awaiting Christmas time so I could buy the game of my dreams from a $20 Steam gift card. Once I finally had that gift card in my hand, I didn't hesitate to input the code as fast as I could to purchase myself a copy of that elusive Mirror's Edge game I had watched so many hours of. After sitting through the painfully long 8GB download, I was finally playing Mirror's Edge for myself, controlling Faith with my own keyboard in an 800x600 window to compensate for the low-end hardware. To this day, I don't think I have ever been that excited to play a game before. Something about finally sitting down and playing the game for myself in my own house was a legendary feeling I don't think I will ever experience again. It didn't matter to me that the game was running at 20 FPS, what mattered to me is that I was playing Mirror's freaking Edge. So, by now you're probably asking, well, okay, that's cool and all, but what does this have to do with Team Fortress 2? Well, let me tell you. I was never big on shooter games. Hell, I never even owned an Xbox or a PlayStation to be able to try them out for myself. Regardless, I didn't really have much desire to. I was happy with my Mario and Zelda and the occasional Flash game if I was feeling frisky. I remember my good friend Zach would mention a game called Team Fortress 2 to me all the time. At this point, my Steam library had very few games, and Zach had about 800 hours in games, so I could tell there must have been something that he really liked about it. He would constantly try and convince me to download and play it, and he said it was free, so I really had no reason not to. I remember having very little interest in the game at first, since to me it just looked like another generic FPS game. I added it to my library without much thought to it, opened it once, saw it ran terribly, and never gave it another thought. It wasn't until a couple months later that I scrounged up enough money to buy my own desktop computer. Of course, the first game I tried out on the system was Mirror's Edge since I was still infatuated with the game at this point, and I was fascinated to see the game running at 60 FPS in a resolution that wasn't 600p. Yes, my standards were that low. As an extension, I kept trying out other games that had difficulty running on our old laptop. One of the games I tested was Team Fortress 2, and I decided to give it another fair shot since it could run above 12 FPS now. Normally, this would be the part of the video where I talk about my earliest known memories of actually playing the game, but unfortunately my memories on this are pretty fuzzy. But I can safely say I was pretty ass at the game. However, I do know that I started enjoying the game a hell of a lot more than I thought I would. Zach and I would play the game together almost every day, and if I'm being completely honest, these were some of the best times of my life. It sounds sappy and sentimental, but damn did we have fun, and I frequently miss it. The earliest screenshot I found on Zach's profile of us playing together is from January of 2017, a simple image of the match scoreboard where the game bugged and read as Zach having -1 kills, and though you can't see it, I'm sure I somehow had even less than him. But looking at this screenshot of my old profile picture and my old casual rank gets me in my feels. For a reference of time, it looks like I was casual rank 6 in the screenshot. Now at the time of writing, I'm 150. Anyways, our other friend Aiden would soon join Zach and I's nightly TF2 matches after much less convincing than I had needed, only adding to our fun together as the Team Fortress Musketeers. We all had a great time playing the game together. It didn't matter if we got our asses kicked or not, we still had tons of fun with each other nonetheless. After playing the game for a bit, I started to discover and hear about these little nuances that made for a completely different playing experience. Zach would mention some of these things to me and would talk about how important they are from time to time. Things like rocket jumping, sticky jumping, crouch jumping, air strafing, and bullet surfing, just to name very few, are all tech that could be used to my advantage in the appropriate in-game setting. Ledges that I couldn't clear before with regular jumps could now be easily passed while holding crouch and jumping. Getting to the front lines quickly was made easier and faster by sticky jumping. Learning how to rocket jump, while frustrating at first, proved to be invaluable as it introduced a completely different roaming playstyle to Soldier and turns one of the slowest moving classes into one of the fastest. Learning all these quirks of the Source engine was already an advantage over other players without this knowledge. It completely changed the way I played the game. Suddenly, combining crouch jumping and air strafing as Scout, I could now reach places that previously seemed out of reach. Now I can almost immediately get myself to the front lines of a fight at near warp speed compared to the lame-ass walking speed of the drunk Scottish Cyclops. Jumping back to Mirror's Edge for a second, the main reason why I love this game so much is how well the game controls as a first-person platformer. Fate's moveset feels fluid and comfortable, a difficult thing to pull off from a first-person view. Most first-person games glue themselves to the ground, offering very little in the way of Z-axis movement. Easiest example, Call of Duty. While the games have gotten more movement options over the years, like sliding introduced in Ghosts and wall running first seen in Black Ops 3 and later Infinite Warfare, it is fundamentally the same stop, point, and shoot experience that's been re-released over and over again for the past 10 years. Now, I don't mean to throw shade on COD, I do love me some good old Black Ops 2 gun game with my friends from time to time, but if somebody sat me down in a room with a gun to my head and told me to find the difference between Cold War and Modern Warfare 3 on the DS, I could probably tell the difference, but the point is, outside of these few exceptions from various games, COD has fundamentally held the same point-and-shoot formula for years. To add another layer of depth to the first-person movement, one would naturally think of shooting, right? Mirror's Edge did this to varying degrees of success, and while the combat was serviceable at best, I couldn't help but think there's gotta be a better way to do this. To make the combat work, it needed to be an extension of Fate's movement without interrupting her flow. In Team Fortress 2, I quickly discovered that if I'm standing still and shooting, chances are I would probably die before I could empty my clip. If you stop and look, you can notice most new players try and play the game this way. They kinda just stand there and shoot, hoping a shot will connect, especially if they have previous experience with other first-person shooters. But when they die a few too many times, they usually have two options: give up and stop playing the game forever, or figure out how to dodge bullets. If the player in question is open to the latter, the whole dynamic of the game can change for them. It becomes something completely different than other FPS games. Now, instead of dying within 6 seconds of leaving spawn, they can survive for 10 more seconds. I guess the point I'm trying to make with all these comparisons between Mirror's Edge, TF2, and Call of Duty is that TF2 has an intricate movement system like no other FPS game I've ever played. The little quirks and nuances of the Source engine craft the game into a brilliant movement shooter that combines the thrill and precision of first-person platforming while also marrying it with the accuracy required to simultaneously fire a weapon. As of October 20th, 2021, I've officially spent 1,000 hours of my life playing Team Fortress 2, and I have probably enjoyed 999 of these because I'm sure I've spent at least an hour re-queuing after a bot server. Anyway, the rest of these 999 hours have been some of the best gaming memories of my life. I seriously can't say I've ever played a game as fun as Team Fortress 2, and I owe a big thank you to my friends for that. Seriously, playing TF2 with these guys makes the experience so much more hilarious and enjoyable. My friends in combination with the game have helped me through a lot of the rough patches in my life. After 1,000 hours, you'd think the game would get pretty boring, but I seriously can't say I've ever been bored of TF2. Of course, I've taken breaks from the game, but I've always come back to it, because nothing can ever fill the TF2-shaped hole in my heart except TF2. It's a personal game to me, and something that I'm proud to say that I've spent literally 42 days of my life playing. I love this game to death, and I do not regret a single minute playing. All the friends I made, all the enemies I've shot, all the hats I've worn, and pan sound effects I've heard have equated to some of my best internet memories I think I will ever experience. It sucks to see the game barely getting any attention from Valve over the past couple of years, though I'm still holding on to the hope that there are still future plans for Team Fortress 2 besides updating the localization files. The community is one of the strongest and most passionate I have ever seen for a game, with community content being produced on the daily. Valve has a plethora of community members doing their jobs for them, creating taunts, weapons, cosmetics, maps, you name it. Community unity is at an all-time high for Team Fortress 2, and player counts still consistently reach the top charts on Steam. All that needs to be done is for Valve to upgrade their TF2 department, hire more than 3 people to work on the damn game, and Team Fortress 2 as we know it can reach a Renaissance-like revival from all the community content drops just waiting to happen. Until then, my fellow Team Fortress 2 fans, hang in there. Thanks for watching.